Next, the Delaware Way goes in depth with a councilman who declares Delaware deserves a young man who's not a career politician. Find out who wants you to fire Senator Tom Carper. The Delaware Way is just ahead. Welcome to the Delaware Way. Dawn Stensland Mendte in for my better half, Larry Mendte. We want to talk about a possible changing of the guard in Delaware. Rob Arlett, Sussex County Councilman, and obviously you hope to be a senator who's a Republican senator. Yes. To replace the blue guy, right?
Absolutely. Well, we have to correct you on one point, yes. Dawn. I think you're the better half of Larry. just for the record, right? I think our audience, your audience, would agree with you on that. So, but though we all love Larry for sure. Yeah. So, but absolutely, the tide is turning in Delaware. And we have been on the grassroots level for the last 2 or 3 years. Nobody more in the Republican Party than I. So we are very in tune with what the people's desires are, and they are seeking leadership. They're seeking courage. And it's time that we turn the page on Senator Carper's chapter. We appreciate his service. I think he's a very good man. But everybody has their time, and it's time to turn that page.
Well, you say that, but it's a blue state. And so with Senator Carper, you know, he's got the name.
Sure.
How in the world do you change that and convince voters in Delaware that you're the right man?
Policy. It has nothing to do with party. It's all about the people. And so our campaign is all about Delawareans, and it's not about partisan politics. Unfortunately, that's what Washington has become. Unfortunately, that's what many of our I would per se, all of our elected officials at the federal level in Delaware have become.
So right now the economy is great.
Yes.
But Donald Trump, who I know you're an ardent supporter
Sure.
of, is somebody who, yes, the economy's great, but he's such a divisive figure. So how do you balance that in Delaware?
Again, it's all about policy. So I don't agree with many things that he does on the personality side. That's not who I am. I'm running as Rob Arlett, the next candidate, or she said, or the next senator from Delaware. So that's what's key about our message. This has nothing to do really with our president. It has everything to do with what's best for Delaware, and to focus on what their desires are, what their needs are. And many families in the state of Delaware still are struggling.
So give me a detail. I mean, how would you make a difference specifically?
Sure. I think number one, you have to remember who you are as a state. Let us not forget that we were once the premier state in our country with regard to credit cards and banking. We are no longer that today. We used to be a car manufacturing facility state. We are no longer that today, correct? We used to be the DuPont chemical capital of the country, if not the world. We are no longer that today. So why is that? And so I think we have tremendous opportunities to bring new opportunities, new ideas, and truly just a new attitude back into Delaware, because we have lost jobs. We used to be about 75,000 manufacturing jobs in our state. We're below 25,000 today. And truth be told, that's unacceptable. So for me, it's changing of the attitude. Number one, we can and we will bring back jobs. It all starts with attitude, does it not? And I think number one, that's number one. Number two is, again, reaching out to people beyond Delaware and let them know that we exist.
For you, in other words, how do you convince people of this? How do you say to them, I'm the guy that you can trust to take us into, you know, the next 10 years, the next 5 years, to create these
Sure.
jobs, to create this better environment?
I think you just have to look at the history of where we've come from. Is being 50 out of 51 in our country acceptable? I would say the answer to that is no. This last year we were 50 out of 51, to include Washington, D.C., of the GDP, of our economic growth. We were 0.9% in the country. That was ranked 50 out of 51. I think Delaware is not pleased, not satisfied with our children leaving, with our jobs decreasing, and our economic development has been suffering. So I think the question for Delawareans, where are you today? Are you better off today than where you were 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 20 years ago? And many Delawareans, I think the answer to that very question is no, which is why our kids, unfortunately, are leaving.
How does your connection or your support in the past of Donald Trump help you or hurt you?
Well, I think I'll just give the personal story of my wife. When I was first asked to consider that, my wife thought I was crazy. And truth be told, perhaps I was. But I will share with you, as you've been married, you and Larry have been married for almost 20 years,
Yeah.
yes. I've been married for almost 29 years, and I'm sure like you, like myself, I don't drink all of my wife's Kool-Aid, correct? We don't agree with all things. And certainly I do not agree with our president on all things. I got involved because there was 3 things that I could place a focus on, and I'll let our audience, your audience, go back and look at those tapes, because I've talked about those in previous episodes, if you would, or segments. But to me, I have courage. I focus on principles and not the person or even the party, as evidenced with my involvement in the president. I don't agree with all things President Donald Trump. As an example, he just yesterday or this morning, as a topic of discussion, right? He just took back the invite of our Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl champions, correct?
Yes. Yes. So at the time of this, is being taped.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
I would disagree with his decision to do that. And I'll be quite blank why. I believe that, yes, people need to stand for our American flag. I think that's perhaps his premise, and I don't disagree with that. I don't agree with his method. The White House is the people's house. It is not our president's house. Correct? So with that premise alone, he should have kept the invite of our Philadelphia Eagle team and our fans and open up their home to that team. So I understand his thinking, but I did not agree with his approach as one example of my disagreement with our president, as relevant to this morning.
Well, let's have the conversation continue. The Delaware Way. We'll be right back.